Hey everyone, welcome back to another video from the Tutorium. In this video, we're going to learn about what the quadratic equation is and how to use it. So the quadratic equation is used to solve for trinomials, and a trinomial is an expression where you have ax squared plus bx plus c, and quadratic equation is used when you set it equal to 0 and you try to solve for x. So in this case, your a, b, and c are just any real numbers and x is the variable. So the quadratic equation states that x is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. So this plus or minus just means that there's usually two solutions for solving the trinomial. So let's take a look at a couple quick examples. So the first example is solve for x when x squared plus 4x plus 1 equals 0. So if you remember in the previous video, we tried to solve by factoring. So what we would do is have an m and an n and try to solve for two numbers that would multiply up to 1 and add up to 4. But if you try it in this case, you'll realize that these two numbers are really hard to find and they actually have square roots in them. So it's a lot easier to just use the quadratic formula instead. So let's do that. To use the quadratic formula, we first have to find our a, b, and c. So if you remember, a is the coefficient that goes before x squared. So there is no coefficient, which means that you can pretend there's an imaginary 1 here. So your a is equal to 1. The coefficient of b, or the coefficient before x is your b, so b is 4. And c is a number that stands by itself, so c is positive 1. So you have a is 1, b is 4, and c is 1. And again, here's the quadratic formula. All we have to do is just plug in the numbers a, b, and c into the respective places. So let's do that. X equals negative 4, because b is 4, and you have x equals negative b, so x equals negative 4, plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, so 4 squared minus 4 times 1 times 1, all over 2a, which is all over 2 times 1. So we can simplify this. On the inside, you have 16 minus 4, so 12. So you get x equals negative 4 plus or minus the square root of 12, all over 2. And the square root of 12 is just the square root of 4 times the square root of 3, and the square root of 4 is 2. So the square root of 12 all boils down to just 2 root 3. So you can plug that back in, so you get x equals negative 4 plus or minus 2 root 3 all over 2. And everything, the top and bottom, is all divisible by 2, so you can just cancel out the 2's. So x equals negative 2 plus or minus the square root of 3. So these are your two solutions, x equals negative 2 plus square root of 3, and x equals negative 2 minus square root of 3. Let's do one more example. X equals, or 3x squared plus 6x minus 4 equals 0. So again, first step, just find your a, b, and c. So your a is a coefficient before x squared, so a is 3. B is a coefficient before x, so b is 6. And c is a number by itself, so c is negative 4. And again, all you have to do is just plug it into the quadratic equation, so you get x equals negative b, negative 6, plus or minus the square root of b squared, 6 squared, minus 4ac, 4 times 3 times negative 4, all over 2a, 2 times 3. And if you simplify all of that, you'll eventually get x equals negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 21 over 3. So your two solutions are x equals negative 3 plus the square root of 21 over 3, and x equals negative 3 minus the square root of 21 over 3. I hope this video helped on how to use the quadratic formula to solve for trinomials, and see you in the next one.